Okay, so here I have number 12. I'm not that familiar with the hole, so I don't know if I have it exactly right as far as where the red lines go and the exact penalty zone area, but it should be pretty close. So I have my penalty area over to the right, and let's say my ball is in the penalty area. So we have four options. So one of them is to go find your ball, and without any penalty, you're free to go hit it. The second is to go back to your original position. So that's called stroke and distance. So you have your penalty plus the extra hit. And then the other two options revolve around what we call that last point of entry. So that's what we talked about in that last video. So you could keep that point between, so I've indicated it with an X, between you and the flag and go back on that line as far back as you want. So in this particular case, that option is useless because you can't drop in a hazard when you're taking relief, and why would you want to do that anyways? So the more practical option is to use your point of entry, so the point where it crosses into the hazard, past the stakes or the red line, and then from that point you can take 2 club lengths no nearer the hole, and then you can drop within that zone. It ends up being like a little bit of a half moon area, and then you can play your shot from there. The nice thing is, because of our local rule, we can also use the drop circle. So on the back of the scorecard, you'll find the local rules, and there's one for drop zone, hole number 12. So it says a ball at rest in a penalty area may be dropped in the designated drop zone. So it's a choice. So it basically gives you an extra option, and you would still take your 1-stroke penalty. And my understanding is the drop zone is kind of part way up the hole. So now we have the situations that are a little bit trickier. So let's say, for example, you're a right-handed player, you hit this big sweeping hook, so your ball kind of enters into the penalty area, it's flying good, it's looking like it's going to be a really good shot. It exits the penalty area, lands on the green, and then bounces back into the hazard. Doesn't matter if your ball lands on the green, over the bunker, near the edge of the green. If your ball bounces back into the hazard, then that becomes your last point of entry. The first point of entry is irrelevant. You could also hit a perfectly straight shot, a shot that comes in from the left-hand side and hits the green or near the bunker or the edge and bounces out. The point is, if it bounces out, you use the point where it bounced out as your point of reference. And as we talked about in the last video, it doesn't matter if you find it or you don't find it, as long as everybody is virtually certain that it is in fact in the penalty area, then you'll proceed under your penalty area options. Okay, as you know, one of the most important things is that when you drop, you can never drop close to the hole. So oftentimes there's situations, especially depending on where the pin is located, where you might find yourself wanting to drop up near the green, but you can't because you're going to end up close to the hole. So this is where clubs usually have a drop zone. So on number 12, like we talked about, there's a drop zone. So if you can drop in such a way that you're not close to the hole, then you can actually drop up near the green, which is an advantage. So you can see in this case here, because of where the pin is, either scenario I take, whether I go to the right or to the left, there's a good chance, because I have to drop free of the hazard, that I'm going to end up being closer to the hole. So this is where I have to use all my other options for a hazard, or I may use the drop zone. So this is a completely different situation now, because you can see here, because of where your last point of entry was and where the pin is, you can actually drop up near the green. So you can see if you try to go towards up above, you'll see that you'll actually end up being closer, but if you end up dropping down more towards the tee, your point is actually farther. One of the interesting tidbits that actually may help you is, technically your ball has to, when you drop it, it has to be clear of the hazard, and you still have to, your ball has to remain within those 2 club lengths. But even after you drop, technically, as long as your ball is outside the hazard and in that proper zone, you can actually physically stand inside the hazard to play the ball. So that's one of the things that might help give you a little bit of an advantage. And no, I haven't lost my mind by pulling up obscure items. This string is a really handy tool to keep in your bag if you're a serious player playing in competitive interclub events. If you feel like you want to have the advantage of being able to drop up near the green, and people in your group are telling you that you can't because in fact you're going to be closer to the hole, and you disagree, what you can do is pull out your string, you wrap it around the flag, you pull it taut, and then you just kind of move yourself over your 2 club lengths, and then you can prove to the people you're playing with that in fact you are farther away from the hole. This is actually one of the tricks that rules officials use. For the purpose of our trophy events or for our Tuesday events, if the consensus is that you aren't closer, then feel free to drop. If you're not sure, then use the drop circle. I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out.